My bipolar son spiraled after his dad's death, stealing everything, including my surgery meds, before pushing me down the stairs and hospitalizing me. I finally got rid of him. It's been 2 years of peace since then, but now he's back, and I think he's stalking my best friend to get to me. My son Tyler was 16 when he and his dad got T-boned by a drunk driver coming home from a school play. Tyler came out with a few cuts on his arms and legs, but his dad got hit with a huge shard right to the abdomen, and Tyler had to watch as his dad bled out in front of him. According to Tyler, his last words were, "I'm gonna make it." In the aftermath, Tyler did a 180 overnight. He went from being this goofy kid who'd make up songs about our dog to smoking grass in our living room and yelling at me to F off. I know he was grieving, I was too. I really tried my best to help him, but it's hard to be nice when you start noticing that most of your tips from the diner you worked at are going missing. I relied on these to make rent. Tyler knew that, but he stole them anyway. Still, I didn't bother him much about it, just asked to give back what he didn't spend and started working more. But then I caught him red-handed one Tuesday, pawning not only his dad's Seiko watch, but my Nana's pearl necklace that survived 2 World Wars too. When I confronted him, he just stood there in my bedroom doorway crying these crocodile tears. "I just miss him so much, Mom, I needed something of his." "If you need it so much, why are you selling his stuff?" I asked, trying not to cry. I don't know. I think everything just reminds me of him. I don't want to think of him. I want to forget and not feel anything. My chest actually hurt when he said that. I gave him a huge hug, and while we embraced, he swore on his father's grave he'd get help. He'd been getting onto substances a lot more, and he knew himself he needed to stop. I wanted to believe him. But then 2 weeks later, my Percocet from my back surgery vanished. In the past, Tyler had told me they sold for $40 a pop at his high school, so I instantly knew what happened. I confronted Tyler about it, telling him he promised, but instead of apologizing or doing anything, he got aggressive. He put his fist through the drywall right next to his dad's memorial photo. He then looked at me like I was his enemy. I just stood there shaking. I tried to enroll him into therapy after that, but he refused, actually telling me he would beat me up if I forced him to go. That was a real breaking point, and after he turned 18, it only got worse. For no reason, he started telling everyone at church that I beat him. Suddenly, I got a call from the bank about 5 bounced checks. Tyler had stolen them and forged my signature to drain his college fund. $5,800 that I'd saved from his dad's death benefit. The night I confronted him about it, he shoved me backward down the basement stairs. I remember waking up in the ER with this young nurse holding my hand asking, "Honey, who did this to you?" I just mumbled something about tripping over laundry because how do you say your own grieving child did this? I knew I'd had enough though. I dumped all his things on the lawn and changed the locks. I even filed a restraining order. I got 2 years of blessed peace where I could actually sleep through the night. I started going to this grief support group at the Methodist church where I met Linda, who became my lifeline. This tough Polish lady who'd lost her husband to cancer and would split a piece of pie with me after every meeting. I thought things were getting better, but then my sister Sharon called me, and that changed everything. She told me that Tyler was diagnosed bipolar and is taking medication and wants to make amends. She sent me pictures of lithium bottles and a letter from some therapist at the county mental health clinic. Sharon said, "He's your son, Diane. You'll never forgive yourself." I finally caved and met him. I'm not gonna lie, he looked better with a haircut and clean clothes. He showed me pay stubs from Amazon warehouse and talked about his 12-step programs. Even pulled out an envelope with $200 cash as a down payment on what he stole. So we started with Sunday dinners where he'd help me clean gutters or fix the fence. And for 3 months, I thought maybe I got my boy back. Then one day I came out of the bathroom and heard him on his phone laughing, saying, "Yeah, the old lady's eating it up, she has no clue." And my blood went ice cold. Linda had been jumpy lately, saying this blue sedan kept showing up wherever she went. She missed our Tuesday meeting next week, which never happened before in the 2 years. She wasn't answering her phone either. Wednesday morning I was making coffee when a detective called me asking if I knew Linda. They found her in her apartment beaten so bad her own daughter couldn't identify her. Someone did it with a hammer to get her safe combination where she kept $32,000 in cash from her husband's life insurance. She's in the ICU with a severed spinal cord and damage in her brain. The detective asked about Tyler, and I'm thinking, no. Then he showed me security footage of Tyler's Civic in Linda's parking garage at 2 a.m. The prosecutor Janet laid it out simply and said with my testimony about the assault and theft history, they can get him 20 to 25, but without it, he's looking at 7, maybe 10 with good behavior. I spent an hour in that courthouse bathroom dry heaving while my sister blew up my phone calling me every name in the book. When they finally called me to testify, my legs were jello. I raised my right hand and caught his eye, and for 1 second I saw my baby boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. But then I saw Linda's face all purple and swollen with tubes down her throat, and I realized I had no idea what to do. That's when I opened my mouth. Nothing came out at first, but then I thought about it again, and this time, my voice came out like broken glass. "He pushed me down the stairs," I said, and the words hung there in the courtroom air. Tyler's face crumpled and he started shaking his head, mouthing "no" over and over. I kept going, telling them about the stolen checks, the pawned jewelry, the missing pills. Each word felt like pulling teeth, but I couldn't stop looking at the photo of Linda they'd put up on the screen, her face so swollen her eyes were just slits. When I finished, Tyler's lawyer tried to make me look like some bitter mother who couldn't handle her son's mental illness. Asked if I'd ever gotten him proper help after his father died. Asked why I didn't call the police sooner if he was so dangerous. I just kept answering honestly, my hands gripping the wooden rail until my knuckles went white. The jury watched me like I was some kind of monster for turning on my own blood. After court, I drove straight to the hospital. Linda's daughter was there, belly round under her sweater, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She grabbed my hand and squeezed it hard. "Thank you," she whispered. "Mom would want you to know she doesn't blame you." But I blamed myself plenty. If I hadn't let Tyler back in, he never would have found out about Linda through our support group conversations. The next few weeks were hell. Sharon stopped speaking to me entirely. People at church acted like I had some contagious disease. Even my manager at the diner started giving me weird looks, probably wondering what kind of mother raises a kid who'd do something like that. I'd come home to nasty messages on my answering machine from Tyler's friends, calling me every name in the book. Then the verdict came in, 22 years. When they read it, Tyler turned around and looked right at me. No tears this time, just this cold, dead stare that made my skin crawl. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something in his ear, and Tyler nodded slowly, still staring at me. That night, I couldn't sleep, kept checking the locks, peeking out the curtains. Every car that drove by made my heart race. I called the prosecutor Janet the next morning, told her I was scared. She said Tyler Tyler had made some connections inside already. Guys from the county jail who ran with real crews on the outside. Said I should consider relocating. Maybe stay with family out of state for a while. But I couldn't leave. Linda was still in the ICU. Machines breathing for her. The doctor said if she woke up, she'd need to relearn everything. Talking, walking, feeding herself. Her daughter was due any day and had nobody else. So I stayed, visiting Linda every day after my shifts, reading to her from those romance novels she loved, holding her hand and telling her about the weather. 3 weeks after the verdict, Linda's eyes fluttered open while I was mid-sentence about some duke in Victorian England. She couldn't speak, could barely move her fingers, but she was there. The nurses said it was a miracle. We started working with speech therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists. I'd sit there for hours helping her form basic sounds, watching her struggle to say way for water. That's when Tyler's lawyer started calling. Left messages saying Tyler wanted to appeal, that they had new evidence about his medication causing violent episodes. Said some expert would testify that the lithium dosage was wrong, made him psychotic. I deleted every message without listening to the whole thing. Janet said it was just legal maneuvering, that appeals rarely worked, but the calls kept coming. One afternoon, I was helping Linda practice holding a spoon when my phone rang. Private number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was Tyler, calling from prison. His voice was different, harder. Mom, you need to listen to me, he said. These guys in here, they know where you live. They know your schedule. All I have to do is say the word. My hand started shaking so bad I dropped the phone. Linda made this gurgling sound, trying to ask what was wrong. I picked it back up and Tyler was still talking. But I won't, if you help me with this appeal. Just tell them you were confused, that maybe I didn't push you. Maybe you really did trip, that's all. I hung up on him. Reported the call to Janet immediately. She said they'd restrict his phone privileges, but there wasn't much else they could do. Threats from prison were hard to prove, harder to stop. She suggested witness protection again, but I looked at Linda struggling to swallow applesauce and knew I couldn't leave. The harassment started small. Pizza deliveries I didn't order. My car tires slashed in the diner parking lot. Dead flowers left on my doorstep. Then it escalated. Someone spray-painted snitch across my garage door. My bedroom window got broken by a brick with a note wrapped around it. Accidents happen. I installed security cameras, changed my routine, started carrying pepper spray. But I kept visiting Linda. She was making progress. Could say simple words now. Diane, she'd manage, and squeeze my hand. Her daughter had the baby. A little girl named after Linda's mother. I'd bring the baby to visit and Linda's whole face would light up. Tyler's lawyer kept pushing the appeal. Sent documents to my house showing medical records, expert testimonies, brain scans, all trying to prove Tyler wasn't responsible for his actions. I threw them all away unopened. Janet said I didn't have to participate in the appeal, that my original testimony would stand, but the pressure kept building. One night I came home to find my front door slightly open. Nothing was missing, but everything felt wrong. Pictures moved slightly, drawers not quite closed right. Someone had been in my house, going through my things, leaving just enough signs to let me know. I packed a bag and stayed at a motel that night, but I was back at the hospital the next morning. Linda had graduated to forming short sentences. You okay? She asked when she saw my face. I'm fine, honey, I lied, helping her practice holding a cup. The intimidation continued for months. Sharon started calling again, not to reconcile but to blame me for everything. Said Tyler was getting struck up in prison, that he'd tried to hurt himself. Said it was my fault for not supporting his appeal. I changed my phone number, but she found the new one within a week. Then something shifted. The harassment suddenly stopped. No more calls, no more vandalism, nothing. Janet called to tell me Tyler had withdrawn his appeal. No explanation, just paperwork filed to drop the whole thing. I should have been relieved, but it made me more nervous. Tyler never gave up on anything without a reason. I found out the reason 2 weeks later. One of Tyler's prison friends had been arrested for running a robbery crew on the outside. During questioning, he gave up information about plans to hurt me, trying to get a deal. Turned out Tyler had promised him money from my life insurance if something happened to me. But when the guy got caught, Tyler knew it would trace back to him, adding decades to his sentence. So he called it all off, withdrew the appeal, went quiet. Linda was walking with a walker by then, living in a rehabilitation center. We'd sit in the garden and she'd practice reading children's books to her granddaughter. Her speech was slow but clear. You saved my life, she told me one afternoon, testifying. When you did. He's my son, I said. And for the first time, it didn't feel like an excuse or an apology, just a fact. Some kids break different, she said, echoing her words from years ago. I still visit Linda twice a week. She's in assisted living now, can walk with a cane, tells jokes about her physical therapist. Her granddaughter just started kindergarten. Tyler's got 19 more years to go. He doesn't call anymore, doesn't write. Sharon and I don't speak. The church ladies still whisper, but I found a new congregation across town. Sometimes I drive by the old house where Tyler grew up, where his father taught him to throw a baseball in the backyard. I wonder if there were signs I missed, moments I could have changed things. But Linda's right. Some kids break different. All you can do is refuse to let them break you too. I kept my job, my home, my friend. Tyler took enough from me. He doesn't get to take my peace. That's the thing about choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. It keeps hurting long after you've done it. But when I see Linda walking, talking, laughing with her granddaughter, I know I made the only choice I could live with. My son is where he needs to be, and I'm where I need to be. Sometimes that's the best ending you can hope for. The peace lasted exactly 6 months. That's when Tyler's new cellmate, a guy named Klaus who'd done time for identity theft, started sending me letters. Not threatening ones, just chatty updates about how Tyler was doing, how he'd found religion, joined the prison ministry, was teaching literacy classes to other inmates. Klaus wrote with perfect grammar and included photocopies of Tyler's certificates from various programs. I threw them all away, but they kept coming, always with different return addresses. Linda noticed my hands shaking during our Tuesday visit. She was practicing writing her name, the pen trembling between her fingers. What's wrong? She asked, her words clearer now after months of therapy. I showed her the latest letter. She read it slowly, sounding out the longer words. When she finished, she set it down and looked at me with those sharp eyes that hadn't changed despite everything else. Don't trust it. But the letters kept coming, and they started including photos. Tyler in a prison chapel, head bowed in prayer. Tyler helping an elderly inmate in a wheelchair. Tyler receiving a certificate for completing anger management. Each photo carefully staged, each letter perfectly crafted to tug at a mother's heart. Then Sharon showed up at the diner during my shift. First time I'd seen her in over a year. She slid into a booth and ordered coffee like nothing had happened. When I brought it over, my hands steady despite my racing heart, she pulled out a manila folder. Just look, she said. That's all I'm asking. Inside were medical records I'd never seen seen before. Brain scans showing abnormalities in Tyler's frontal lobe. Reports from when he was 14, before his dad died, documenting violent outbursts I didn't remember. Teacher complaints about aggression. A school counselor's note recommending psychiatric evaluation that apparently never happened. Where did you get these? I asked. Does it matter? The point is, he was sick before dad died. You just didn't want to see it. I stared at the papers. Some looked authentic. Others had dates that didn't match up. One report claimed Tyler had attacked a classmate in 8th grade, but I remembered that year clearly. He'd won the science fair, played Joseph in the Christmas pageant. These documents painted a picture of a disturbed child I didn't recognize. Sharon leaned forward. There's a specialist in the city, Dr. Nichols. He thinks with the right medication protocol, Tyler could be stabilized, but he needs family support. He needs you to write a letter to the parole board saying you'd supervise his treatment. He's not eligible for parole for 15 years, I said. Compassionate release, for mental health treatment. It's different. I pushed the folder back across the table. No, Sharon's face hardened. You're going to let him rot because you're too proud to admit you failed him as a mother? After she left, I called Janet. She ran the doctor's name and came back with interesting news. Dr. Nichols existed, but he'd lost his license 3 years ago for writing false medical reports for inmates' appeals. The medical records Sharon showed me were likely forgeries, mixed with just enough real information to seem credible. The next phase started subtly. My coworkers at the diner began getting anonymous calls about my criminal history. Someone sent my manager a fake arrest record showing I'd been convicted of child abuse. It was obviously fabricated, but I still had to prove it was false. Then my landlord received a letter claiming I was running a substance operation out of my apartment. Again, easily disproven, but the suspicion lingered. Linda and I talked about it during her physical therapy sessions. She was up to walking 50 feet with her cane, determination etched in every step. He's trying to isolate you, she said, pausing to catch her breath. Make you desperate. She was right. The harassment was designed to make me lose my job, my home, my stability. Make me vulnerable enough to need Tyler's forgiveness as much as he claimed to need mine. Then came the break-in. Not at my apartment, but at the diner after closing. Someone trashed the place. Spray-painted "Diane is a liar" on the walls. Destroyed thousands of dollars in equipment. The security cameras had been spray-painted black, but one partially malfunctioned and caught a glimpse of the perpetrator. Young guy, early 20s, with a tattoo on his neck. Janet identified him as Alex Morrison, recently released from county jail where he'd served 6 months. Same block as Tyler. The police picked him up, but he wouldn't talk. Swore he acted alone, had a grudge against the diner for firing him years ago, except he'd never worked there. My manager had no choice but to let me go. I'm sorry, Diane, he said, but I can't risk it happening again. Without a job, I couldn't afford my apartment. Sharon, suddenly helpful, offered to let me stay with her. I knew it was a trap, but I was running out of options. Linda begged me not to go. Stay with me, she offered, but she was still in assisted living, barely managing her own daily needs. I moved in with Sharon temporarily, sleeping on her couch, looking for work. Every morning she'd leave printouts on the kitchen table, articles about wrongful convictions, stories about families reuniting after prison, photos of Tyler from Klaus, who was now apparently Tyler's spiritual advisor. The pressure intensified when I started getting calls from Tyler's fellow inmates' family members, mothers, wives, sisters, all with the same story. Tyler had saved their loved one's life in prison, talked someone out of sewer slide, broke up a fight, protected a younger inmate from assault. The stories were too similar, too perfectly timed. He's orchestrating all of this from prison, I told Janet during one of our phone calls. I know, she said, but proving it is nearly impossible. These guys know how to communicate without leaving traces, and technically, having people write letters isn't illegal. 3 months into living with Sharon, I found a job at a grocery store across town. The pay was less than the diner, but it was something. I started saving for my own place again, keeping my money in a bank account Sharon didn't know about. That's when the accidents started happening around Linda. Her wheelchair brakes mysteriously failed, sending her rolling into a wall. Her medication got mixed up, though the nursing home swore their procedures were followed perfectly. A new aide was rough with her during transfers, leaving bruises on her arms. It's him, Linda said during one visit, tears streaming down her face. Punishing me through you. I wanted to move her to a different facility, but insurance wouldn't cover it. The good places had waiting lists. The affordable places were worse than where she was. I felt trapped, watching my friend suffer because of choices my son was making from behind bars. The breaking point came when Linda's granddaughter, now 6, mentioned a nice man who'd been talking to her at the playground. He knew her name, her grandmother's name, my name, said he was a friend of the family. The description matched Alex Morrison. I called Janet immediately. This has to stop. The only way to stop it is to give Tyler what he wants, she said, or wait it out. Eventually he'll overplay his hand. They always do. But I couldn't wait. Linda's daughter was terrified, considering moving out of state. Linda herself was regressing, the stress undoing months of progress. My sister grew more insistent every day, leaving Tyler's letters on my pillow, playing recordings of his phone calls on speaker. Just write the letter, Sharon pleaded one night. Say you'll supervise his treatment. You don't have to mean it. Just give him hope. I stared at her. You really don't see it, do you? He's using you. Using everyone. He's sick, Diane. He needs help, not prison. He nearly unalived Linda. Because his medication was wrong. The dosage. Stop. I stood up, gathering my things. I'm done. With you, with him, with all of this. I left that night, using my savings to rent a motel room, but the harassment followed. My new job got calls about my violent history. My car tires were slashed again. Someone filed a false complaint with Adult Protective Services, claiming I was abusing Linda during visits. Each incident was deniable, unprovable, designed to wear me down without leaving Tyler's fingerprints. But I knew it was him. The timing, the methods, the escalation, it all had his signature. Linda knew it too. During what would be our last visit for a while, she gripped my hand with surprising strength. Don't give in, she said, for both of us. I promised her I wouldn't. But that night, sitting in my motel room with the door double locked and a chair wedged under the handle, I wondered how long I could hold out. Tyler had 19 years left to wage this war. I was already exhausted after 6 months. The next morning, I found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a photo of Linda sleeping in her bed at the nursing home. The message was clear. He could reach her anytime. I called Janet, my hands shaking. What do I do? Document everything, she said. Build a case. Eventually, we'll have enough to prove conspiracy. But Diane, it might get worse before it gets better. She was right. The photo was just the beginning of a new phase. Tyler had learned patience in prison, learned to play a longer game, and he had nothing but time. I started carrying a notebook, documenting every incident, every threat, every suspicious coincidence. But I also started planning. planning. If Tyler wanted a war of attrition, I'd give him one. I just had to outlast him, protect Linda, and hope that somewhere in those 19 years, he'd finally make a mistake that would stick. The battle wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning, but I'd testified against him once, sent him to prison despite every maternal instinct screaming against it. I could survive whatever he threw at me now. I had to. For Linda, for her granddaughter, for everyone else he might hurt if he ever got out. Some kids break different. Sharon couldn't see it, maybe would never see it, but I knew the truth. Tyler wasn't broken by his father's death or failed by the system or damaged by wrong medication. He was something else, something that knew exactly how to mimic brokenness to get what he wanted, and what he wanted now was to break me the way he'd broken Linda. But Linda survived, and so would I. One day, one threat, one small victory at a time. I stared at the photo of Linda sleeping, my stomach churning. The motel room suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in. I grabbed my purse and headed straight to the nursing home, breaking every speed limit on the way. Linda was awake when I burst into her room, working on a crossword puzzle with shaky hands. Her face brightened when she saw me, then fell when she noticed my expression. I showed her the photo and watched her eyes go wide. "We're not safe," she said, each word deliberate. The nursing home administrator wasn't helpful. They couldn't restrict visitors without a court order. They couldn't add extra security without board approval. They could file an incident report, but that was about it. I left feeling more helpless than before. That afternoon, Sharon called me 17 times. I finally answered on the 18th. She was crying, hysterical, saying Tyler had been attacked in the prison shower. 3 inmates jumped him, broke his jaw and 2 ribs. He was in the infirmary, might need surgery. "This is your fault," she screamed. "You put a target on his back." I hung up and called Janet. She confirmed Tyler was in the infirmary but said the attack looked staged. The injuries were real but carefully controlled, painful but not life-threatening. The 3 inmates involved all had connections to Tyler's block. "He's escalating," Janet said. "This is about sympathy. Watch for the next move." The next move came fast. A reporter from the local paper called, wanting to interview me about my son's case. How Tyler was a victim of the system, failed by inadequate mental health care. How his own mother had abandoned him in his time of need. I told her no comment and hung up, but the article ran anyway. Sharon had given them plenty of quotes. My new manager at the grocery store pulled me aside the next day. Corporate had concerns about the negative publicity. They were putting me on unpaid leave while they reviewed the situation. I cleaned out my locker and left without making a scene. Linda's daughter called that night, voice tight with fear. Alex Morrison had shown up at her daughter's daycare, claiming to be picking her up for a family emergency. The staff didn't release her, thank God, but he'd known which classroom, which teacher, what time they went outside for recess. I drove to Linda's daughter's apartment and we sat at her kitchen table while her little girl colored in the next room. She showed me the daycare security footage on her phone. Alex Morrison, clear as day, arguing with the receptionist. "We're moving," she said. "My husband's company has an office in Colorado. We leave next week." "I'm sorry," I said, but she shook her head. "Mom needs to come with us. The facility there has an opening. Better security too." I nodded, throat tight. Linda was my anchor, my reason for staying. Without her, what was keeping me here? Klaus's letters suddenly stopped. Instead, I started getting calls from a number I didn't recognize. I never answered, but they left voicemails. Tyler's voice sounding weak and medicated, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, saying he understood if I hated him, but could I please just write one letter so he knew I was okay? Janet analyzed the recordings. The background noise was wrong for a prison infirmary. The medication slur sounded forced. She thought Tyler had someone smuggling him a phone, probably recording from his regular cell. Sharon escalated her campaign. She showed up at the motel, pounding on my door at 2 a.m. When I wouldn't let her in, she stood in the parking lot screaming about family loyalty until the manager threatened to call the police. She left, but not before keying my car and slashing my spare tire. I found a cash-only job washing dishes at a truck stop diner 40 miles away. The manager didn't care about my history as long as I showed up and worked hard. I moved to a different motel closer to the job, paid week by week, told no one where I was staying. Linda's last week in town, I spent every free moment with her. We worked on her exercises, played cards, looked through photo albums. Her granddaughter drew us pictures of their new house in Colorado, with a special room for Grandma Linda. "Come with us," Linda said on my last visit. "Start fresh." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But Tyler still had connections, still had reach. Following them would just put a target on their backs in a new state. The night before they left, I helped pack Linda's things. Her daughter hugged me tight, made me promise to stay in touch. I lied and said I would. Linda knew better. She gripped my hand and made me look at her. "You're stronger than him," she said. Remember that. After they left, the harassment intensified. My motel room was broken into while I was at work. Nothing stolen, but my clothes were cut up, my toiletries dumped out, snitch written on the mirror in lipstick. I packed what was salvageable and moved again. Sharon somehow found my new workplace. She came in during the dinner rush, made a scene about me being a heartless mother who'd abandoned her sick child. My manager had to physically escort her out. She waited in the parking lot, followed me to my car, screaming about Tyler's deteriorating mental state. "He's not eating," she cried. "He's talking about ending it all. Is that what you want? Your son's death on your conscience?" I got in my car and locked the doors. She pounded on the windows until I drove away. The next day, there was a new dishwasher at the truck stop. My manager apologetically said I was bringing too much drama to his business. Janet called with updates when she could. Tyler's sewer-slide attempts were carefully orchestrated cries for help that never put him in real danger. He'd been caught with contraband phones twice, but kept getting new ones. Alex Morrison had been arrested again, this time for assault, but made bail immediately. I was running out of money, out of options, out of strength. Living in my car, showering at truck stops, picking up day labor when I could find it. Tyler had won without ever leaving his cell. He'd stripped away everything: my job, my home, my friend, my peace of mind. Then Janet called with unexpected news. The FBI had been investigating a corruption ring at Tyler's prison. Guards smuggling in phones, substances, weapons, facilitating contact between inmates and outside criminal networks. Tyler's name came up repeatedly in their wiretaps. "They want to offer him a deal," Janet said. "Information in exchange for transfer to minimum security. But here's the thing, he's refusing. Says he won't cooperate unless he gets to see you first." I laughed. Actually laughed. Even facing federal charges, Tyler was still trying to manipulate me. "There's more," Janet continued. One of the guards flipped. "Says Tyler's been running a whole operation from inside. Extortion, identity theft, coordinating harassment campaigns. We finally have enough to add serious time to his sentence." The relief nearly knocked me over. I sat in my car in a rest stop parking lot, crying for the first time in months, not from sadness or fear, but from the possibility that this might actually end. The FBI arrested 12 guards and 7 inmates. Tyler wasn't offered a deal after that. He was looking at an additional 15 to 20 years. Sharon called me screaming, saying I destroyed her nephew's life. I hung up and blocked her number. Alex Morrison was arrested as part of the conspiracy. He'd been taking orders from Tyler, paid through a complex network of prison accounts and cryptocurrency. He was looking at serious time too. I slowly started rebuilding. Found a job at a bakery in a town 2 hours away. Rented a small apartment above a hardware store. Changed my name legally to my grandmother's maiden name. Janet helped me seal the records. Linda and I write letters now. Real letters. Not emails or texts that could be traced. She's doing well in Colorado. Walking without a cane most days. Her granddaughter started 2nd grade. Loves her new school. They don't mention Tyler, and neither do I. Sharon still tries to find me sometimes. She sends letters to Janet's office, begging for my new address. Says Tyler's really changed this time, found Buddhism, wants to apologize. Janet throws them away unopened. I work early mornings at the bakery, kneading dough while the world's still dark. My hands don't shake anymore. I sleep through the night. Sometimes I even forget to check the locks twice. Tyler's got 37 years left now. He'll be almost 70 when he gets out if he lives that long. I'll be gone by then, one way or another. That's not morbid, just realistic. Some stories don't get happy endings, just endings. I still think about that goofy kid who made up songs about our dog. Wonder if he was ever real, or if I just saw what I wanted to see. But it doesn't matter now. That boy's gone, if he ever existed. What's left is a man who tried to destroy me for holding him accountable. He failed. That's my victory. Small and quiet and hard won, but mine. I survived, my son. Not every parent can say that. Linda survived too, and that matters more than anything. We're both still here, building new lives far from the wreckage Tyler created. The bakery owner's teaching me to make sourdough. I'm thinking about adopting a cat. Small things, but they're mine. Tyler can't touch them from behind bars. He can't touch me anymore either. I made sure of that. Some kids break different. Sharon never understood that, but I do, and I've made my peace with it. Not forgiveness. I'll never forgive what he did to Linda, but acceptance. This is who Tyler chose to become, and these are the consequences of those choices. I don't visit. I don't write. I don't answer Sharon's calls. I just live, one day at a time, in a quiet town where nobody knows my story. It's not the life I planned, but it's the one I've got, and it's enough.